What's up, guys? I'm Mike from StockedUp, and welcome back to the Stocks with Mike and Tom show. And we have an awesome episode for you guys today. We had some more crazy movement out of the EV sector. We saw Tesla break past all-time highs. The same with NIO. Even LI exploded. There was just a lot of upwards movement in the EV sector today. We also had some interesting news in like the political landscape, and just some news with Intel. And we're actually seeing a pretty interesting rotation in the market right now. So we can see that overall the market had a decent day to the upside, but we saw tech stocks like Apple, Microsoft, and other tech stocks, they were kind of down today. But we saw stocks that didn't recover as much, like financial stocks like JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citigroup, and even some airline stocks like Delta, DAL, or LUV, and then some oil stocks like ExxonMobil. We saw them pop up. So that's an interesting rotation, and we're going to be covering all of that in today's video. If you guys aren't in our Discord chat already, consider joining. It's the first link in the description down below. Tom and I post completely free day trades every single morning, about 15 minutes before open, and you can network with over 11,000 other traders. And then last but not least, if you guys aren't subscribed already, don't forget to subscribe to see our daily videos on your YouTube homepage whenever we post. But let's get right into today's episode.
Yeah, definitely. The first thing I wanted to cover was that the markets are going to be closed on Thursday, and they will also be closed at 1 p.m. on Friday. So just keep this in mind for any options you have, or any options that are going to be expiring this week, or any swings that you may be holding. And obviously this is going to be because of Thanksgiving on Thursday. So the market's going to be completely closed Thursday, and then on Friday it's going to have an early close at 1 p.m. and some options may extend out to 1:15 p.m. But just keep in mind, I would close them at least an hour or so before that 1 p.m. cutoff, because that's probably going to pose a pretty large time decay killer, theta killer right there.
Yep, for sure. And then, Tom, one thing is for people who haven't traded through a holiday, normally when there's holidays or like half days in the market, like on Friday this week, normally the market is pretty slow and there's not that much movement. But in 2020, everything's been crazy, and who knows what could happen. But historically, the markets don't really move too much around the holidays.
Yeah, definitely. And thinking of history in the markets, CNBC reports that Biden is choosing former Fed Chair Janet Yellen to be Treasury Secretary. And she used to be the Fed Chairwoman, which is the exact position that Jerome Powell is actually in right now. So that's a pretty crazy thing. And whenever she was in that position, the S&P went up nearly 60% from 2014 to 2018. And rates remain low during that time as well. So it's just pretty good news. And people were reporting that the market overall went up around 1 p.m. today because of Janet Yellen's news. But just keep in mind, her becoming Treasury Secretary is not a for sure thing yet or anything like that. So there's just a lot of uncertainty, I would say, with Janet Yellen right now becoming Treasury Secretary. But just keep in mind, it's interesting news. And she used to be the Fed chairperson, and a lot of people used to make fun of her like they make fun of Powell now.
Right, like all those memes.
Yeah, all the funny memes, and Powell's banging his hammer and making the market fall again and stuff like that. They used to do all that with Yellen.
Cool. All right, and then what happened with Intel?
Yeah, Intel really had some pretty interesting news where the CEO of Intel wrote an open letter to Biden asking for semiconductor manufacturing investments. And he wants to see the U.S. companies dominate the semiconductor business, and is asking Biden to help them by investing so that they can increase manufacturing and start to overtake the world in the semiconductor business. And right now, Asia is the leader in that business, as they are in a lot of tech manufacturing, like with chips and different things like that.
Gotcha. And then, Tom, what is going on in the EV sector right now? NIO, Tesla, LI, even what's the other one? SPEV. I mean, these things are exploding. NIO was up about 12.5% today, exploded past all-time highs, and then closed at their high too. What is going on?
Yeah, this is insane, man. NIO up 12%. No one would have ever expected this out of a stock, especially like NIO, which is in the EV sector. I mean, I know a lot of people have been eyeing this up, but tons of people have been also eyeing it on the way down as well. I know that I'm personally waiting to get into puts on these, but man, it just seems like these stocks are not going to stop, at least in the short term, and they just keep breaking daily high after daily high. So I'm going to be watching NIO tomorrow, especially LI and XPEV. All of them are going to keep going up if like NIO and Tesla. I think those are the big two. as long as those two go up, I think a lot of the smaller ones are going to follow. But just keep in mind that when this turns around, it's going to turn around. And I know we keep saying that, but it will eventually happen. But as of right now, it just seems like they just keep flying and there's just no end in sight on them.
Yeah, we covered this a little bit in yesterday's video. Guys, please be careful with these stocks like Tesla, NIO, any electric vehicle stock. There's a ton of hype in that sector right now. And know that these stocks cannot just go up forever and ever. They have to pull back at some point. So, don't just think that they're going to keep exploding up. That does not mean that they're going to pull back tomorrow. Does not mean that they're going to pull back next week. But eventually they are going to pull back. So just be careful for that. They cannot just explode forever, because I see a lot of people, they see people talking about NIO on CNBC. We're talking about it. They see it in Discord and on Facebook, and I feel like they get like a greedy feeling that this thing's going to hit $100 within like the next 3 weeks or whatever. Like, I feel like people get too greedy and they get like too caught up in the hype. And I just want people to know that these stocks cannot go up forever. So just please be careful.
Yeah, and one big factor to the downside is going to be like if we see some big unusual options or something like that come across the board, and we see millions of dollars start flowing into Tesla puts and NIO puts and LI puts. I think that would be a pretty big indicator.
True. And I actually saw a lot of unusual options today on NIO that were pretty far out of the money strike prices with pretty close expiration dates. And what that is really telling me is the smart money is selling covered calls on these things. So we will see what happens, but just keep your eye out for that. And Tom, was there any other major news?
Nothing too major. It's been a pretty slow past couple weeks with news. I've been really looking for some end of year kind of speculations or something like that coming out, but there hasn't been too many things that have been moving the market lately.
Gotcha. All right. Well, now let's get into our Discord member of the day. Today's member of the day is TV Man. So he's always posting great comments on the YouTube videos. He said been playing the slow game recently. Love the bot, and he made a great post in the Profits channel. We can see that all green across the board, and he said he's playing the slow game. So that's sometimes the best game to play. But great job, TV Man. Thank you for so much for the comments all the time and for all your support. And guys, if you guys want to try out the options bot, it's the StockedUp options alerts link in the description down below. But now let's get into our momentum plays for tomorrow. And the first one is C. So Citigroup, like we mentioned a little bit earlier, the bank stocks have been doing pretty good today. So Tom, what levels should we be watching?
Go ahead and make Citigroup pop above 53.63, which was the high of today. I think that would be a pretty solid level.
All right, and with the next play, we have CVX.
CVX, Chevron, the oil stock, make them pop above 91.58.
They had an amazing day today, up 6%. I mean, that's a pretty big candle. Yeah, pretty big candle on their chart too. They're looking pretty good. With the next play, you probably already know, but NIO.
NIO. Let's go see what they've done in after hours so far. So yeah, it looks like they did end up popping a little bit in after hours. Make them break $56.
All right, and then last but not least, we have WDC.
Yeah, I've actually liked this one for the long term to the upside as well, but make them break 44.75.
All right. So now let's get into our unusual options activity for tomorrow. And we are looking at the Tesla 550 strike call options. And there was $33.5 million put into this play today. I mean, that is it's a pretty big number, and looking at the 550 strike calls, I mean, that's $30 out of the money and a weekly option. I really don't think the smart money would be longing that unless they are extremely bullish on Tesla. But, $33 million, and then Tesla is already up a little over $100 in a week, about $120 in a week. I would really think that they are shorting these options. They can be covered calls. That's what I think the most likely scenario is. But, with this EV hype, no one knows the top. NIO, Tesla, and LI can keep running up for, the next week and a half or the next 2 weeks. No one knows when it's going to end, but there's a lot of momentum. But right now, I really think the smart money is shorting these options.
Yeah, I would really think that they're doing covered calls as well. And I actually sold a covered call on DraftKings, so I could see the smart money doing a covered call on Tesla, just given that, Tesla's at all-time highs right now. So if it does run to 550 and go above it, then they sell out their shares at 550. And if it doesn't get to 550, then they're going to make on the calls they shorted. So it's pretty much a win-win for them if they are shorting covered calls.
Yep. All right, and now for our comments from the previous episode. And with the first question, we have Strike saying, thanks for the vid. Love that you guys always make sure to remind people to be smart with their money. Curious what you think of CRSR. I've made decent returns on them in the last couple of weeks, and I'm curious what you think about their future. So this stock is exploding. Tom, I mean, look at this thing. Corsair, I know they have to do with PCs and things like that. So I'll let you take the rest.
Yeah, definitely. They're a pretty big PC gaming company. They make all types of stuff from RAM to headsets to keyboards even, I think. So they really get into just about everything. And man, since they IPO'd, I know that we had been watching them for a little while, but wow, I did not expect them to have this type of run up. I wish I would have, been watching this more on CRSR, but man, this is a pretty big runner. I really like this, especially for the long term. But man, it just seems so high over the past week. But as long as it can keep running, man, just keep playing it, because it looks like it could just keep playing well every day. You could just keep getting calls on it. But as far as shares go right now for the long term, I'm not sure I'd buy all the way up here at the top like this, but I think it's a company that could definitely hold up, in the next few years to come.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for the question. Then we have Benjamin saying, love the content. What is your opinion on NRP and EFC for the long term? So, what do you think of this?
NRP is a stock that looks like it's starting to come back up over the past couple years. Over the past couple months, but you can see over the past couple years, they've actually been, somewhat falling pretty significantly. I mean, it doesn't look like it doesn't look like a very safe long-term investment. Let's just say that. And you can really look at their earnings per share and see how their earnings, even before COVID, or no, this was at the beginning of COVID, but their earnings dropped to negative $10 EPS. And, they just hit that again a couple of earnings ago. So I just don't see them really going anywhere in the short term. I know that they have popped up over the past few weeks, but this is definitely just not one of those safer stocks, I don't think.
And then EFC.
EFC. Ellington Financial. Now, this one would be a little safer. This would be one that I would actually look at getting for the long term and possibly in the short term. In the short term, I really like how they've been popping and breaking new highs, and they even broke above that high in after hours here at $14.99. So if they break 15, I think it could be a good play in the short term. And in the long term, it looks like they've actually recovered pretty well from the virus. And I would think that they do something like banks or something with housing, given that they're a financial company.
I'm not a huge fan of either of them. I really don't like NRP. Just like if you could pull up their long-term chart, Tom, like it's just not something that I would invest into the long term. Like you could just see that they just do nothing but fall. So I'm not a fan of NRP. That's just my personal opinion, though. With the next question, we have Keith saying, what's up, Mike and Tom? I've been hearing a lot of talk about FCEL and IDEX. Can you guys tell me if it's just hype or there's something else there? As usual, keep up the good work and happy Thanksgiving. So thank you so much for that comment, and happy Thanksgiving to you too. So Tom, FCEL. So I know that we didn't, do you have any news on that one?
There's not too much news, but there's actually just a lot of hype around this. They're almost like EV stocks right now. And like Fuel Cell Energy, which is FCEL, they pretty much design, manufacture, and operate services, direct fuel cell power plants that run on natural gas and biogas and different things like that. So that's just what the Google definition says. And really, I mean, a lot of people have been talking about this stock as well as PLUG, which is Plug Power. And man, these stocks have been getting a lot of hype lately, just like these EV stocks. And I really do think that there is something there on some of these other stocks like FCEL and PLUG, but there is going to be some of those stocks that, they look like FCEL and they look like PLUG and they keep going down. But overall, FCEL is pretty worrisome to me just because of how they actually had a reverse split in the past, I believe, which is pretty scary to me on a long-term chart. You generally don't want to trade stocks or at least hold shares of something that reverse splits a lot. But man, they really have been running the past couple days. And I really, what was the other one he said?
He said IDEX.
Oh, IDEX. Yeah, IDEX. I really like IDEX. I think that they could keep popping, but just like the other one, they're almost like a pump and dump as well. But I think that they have potential in the long term. It's just right now there's just they're just in that phase to where they're kind of newer companies that are very low price. So it's going to take a little while for them to get a solid backing and footing on them as far as like long term investors go to actually prop up that price and keep it at solid levels without it shooting from 50 cents to $4 and then back down to 75 cents.
Well, I'd be very cautious with FCEL. I'm on a max weekly chart right now, and you could see back in, what is that, 2000, it says they technically hit highs of $7,830, and they didn't actually do that. That's just because they did a bunch of reverse splits, like Tom was saying. So, like Tom just said, normally when you have a company that does a lot of reverse splits, it's not a good sign at all. I'm actually on TD Ameritrade. I could actually see that there's a couple reverse splits. There was a 1 for 12 split, as well as another 1 for 12 split. So it's definitely not good. It's just something you really want to stay away from normally. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, if I was getting into something else I would definitely get something else right now for the long term. These are going to be pretty risky. If you want to day trade it, you can try that, but even that's going to be risky on these.
Yeah. All right, Tom, do you have any last minute stocks, options, or any insight for the market for tomorrow?
Oh man, you know what's coming.
Don't even say SPCE.
Oh yeah, it's coming. It's up 7%. How could it not?
Oh God.
Yeah, I like it, man. It's looking really good, especially today. And it also pulled back to kind of like this resistance right around 2480. So I really like the bounce off 2480. Hopefully we can hold that right now in after hours and going into tomorrow. But one thing I just want you guys to keep in mind is that SPCE is a stock that really loves to run a lot, like in the morning, in the middle of the day, and then it almost likes to taper off at the end of the day. So just keep in mind, if you're going to trade this tomorrow, I would make it break the high of like 25.40 and then just try to day trade it above that. I wouldn't necessarily get this and hold it overnight, especially with the options given how volatile it is. And just keep in mind, look at all these times like where it has a green candle and then it has a very steep red pullback. That would be a very bad scenario if you were holding calls and you had to hold through a pullback like that. So I would not hold calls on this overnight. I would rather get shares or something like that. But I think it's a good option to day trade, and I really like the way it's been running. What do you think, Mike?
It does look pretty good. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I mean, it when the setup's there, it's there, and when it runs, it runs. So hopefully it can keep running. But I am a little bit worried on a daily level. We are approaching a pretty steep resistance around 25.75, and then another one around 27.50 or 27.75. So there's going to be a couple levels to be watching over the next few days with it, and I think that these resistances like 27.50 are going to be pretty hard to break through. So if you're going to trade it and it hits 27.50, I'd probably take profits there.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. If you guys have any questions, let us know in the comments down below. If you guys want to trade the same options as Tom and I each day and try out the options bot, it's the Stocked Up Options Alerts link in the description down below. And of course, the Discord is completely free. It's the first link in the description down below. We post free day trades every single morning about 15 minutes before open. And like I said, any questions, ask us in the comments down below. Other than that, thanks for watching.